Hi, my name is Brenda Page, and I'm doing week three's assignment for Intro to Psychology. This week we had to do an activity called the Baru Sex Role Inventory. And I found that actually rather interesting. It does seem to be pretty accurate for me and where I'm at in this stage of my life. I tested at 75.833 towards the male gender and only 70 towards the female gender. This was actually a little disheartening for me because I am female. Um, However, because most men, it's a male oriented world that we live in, um, they're generally thought of as being smarter. They are uh, definitely the breadwinners most of the time in our lives or in the family situation. And they're also the decision makers for their family and even in business. Um, However, that's me. That's the job that I do. I am third in command at the company that I work for, besides the two owners. I'm responsible for 43 employees, and I have to make a lot of decisions there. When it comes down to projects that have to get done around the office, in charge of the employees, helping to decide when they get pay raises, that kind of thing. And at home, I do the same thing. My husband is medically retired, so he does not get a ton of money coming in. So I'm basically the breadwinner. And over the years, I've developed into where I am the one who makes the decisions in our household. Um, so I'm a female, but I feel like I've taken on the male role, if you would. Um, I don't think that this test should be the dichotomous variable or involved in that in any fashion. Um, because that's stating that you're either male, female. That's how that's kind of works in play. But I don't agree with that. I feel like we are all equals, or at least should be thought that way. We should be measured by our own abilities and the traits that we offer. Uh, that's how it should come across to others. There should be no deciding, well, because he's a man, he gets this position versus I'm the woman, so my responsibility is to stay at home. Um, we are all equal. We tend to have preconceived ideas, about gender. So the first time we say male, we're going to think a certain way than the way that we would if we are dealing with a female. That's just the way that it's always been. I think we're moving forward, but we're not there yet. We tend to make assumptions about how somebody's going to act and or what they're going to say based on their gender. And those things need to change, and we're getting there. It's just going to be some time before that does happen. Another thing that we had to read or watch videos about was should individuals play elite sports? Well, absolutely. People have worked hard and have been dedicated for years to ace their sport and qualify and to become eligible to play in their sport. It's hard work. But when gender comes into play and the decision has to be made as to whether or not a person can play on a particular team because you're not quite sure what gender that they are, that's really a difficult time for not only the individual, but also for the people in charge of the team, or committee that's in charge of making that decision. However, there are tests that can be done um, to try to help solve some of those decisions. especially when you're talking about a woman who's potentially playing in a man's body. That's a difficult um, thing to decide. What gender really are they? But they're a woman playing in a man's body. They tend to be faster. They you know can shoot better. They can do a lot of things better because they are powerful, or more muscular. I want to say. But some of the tests that can be done, the first one that, if it's ordered, that they can check for is the XX versus the XY chromosomes. That is a test for male or female, double X being the female and XY being the male genders. And that test is called the karyotype factor. Um, but unfortunately, it doesn't always provide the answers, especially if you're talking about a person who maybe has traits or the physical attributes of a woman, but they've not had their periods, or they've not um, able, or don't have any kids at this point, or whatever. So you're not really sure what they are. So you can order this type of test for that, but sometimes that's not conclusive. So they have to order a second test, which is the SRY gene test. And that looks further into like the stage of development when the embryo was at the point where it was deciding whether you become male or female. There's different things that happen. The test itself is looking for the testes determining factor. Um, the body will get mixed signals, so it doesn't actually develop one way or the other, unfortunately. But there's one additional test that can be done if the first two aren't conclusive to determine male or female gender, and that is the polymerase chain reaction test, the PCR test. And even then, that doesn't always tell us anything conclusively. And when that happens, you are considered to have an insensitivity, meaning complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, CAIS for short. This is where those signals, when they got mixed up and you didn't develop into a man or a woman definitively, you are considered to have this syndrome. And when you are diagnosed with that, you actually are considered female. So the question comes into play, is it right or is it wrong? Is it fair to put these individuals through that kind of a test? Well, unfortunately, it is the right thing to do. When you are a male playing a female sport, there's advantages that you're going to receive, and your team is going to win, and that's ultimately leads to where it's not fair. It's not fair to the other players on the other team if it's an all-female team. And the same thing could be true of the male side. If you are a male, but yet you have the traits of a woman, you're not going to compete at the same level. Unfortunately, that is the truth. So it is the right thing to do. It's sad, and it really is unfair to the individual to be put through that kind of thing, but it's unfair to the rest of the teams who play against that person as well. So unfortunately, that's the way it needs to be. The problem comes into play when it's a transgender individual, and that's a whole different ballgame. But that's for another topic. I appreciate your time and your listening to my speech, and I look forward to the next time we meet. Thank you and have a great day.